the matchup has evolved over time from what was expected in the sort of early days. But for any viewers that are coming in, we have on the red side, right up here on, I believe this is Lipany, we have HuT, the Australian, playing as the Holy Roman Empire. He is down one game at the moment. He needs to pick back up 2 games to be able to advance to the semifinals of the SteelSeries Prime Cup. And on the other side, we have VortiX playing as the English. We might see a couple of longbowmen. We'll see. He has the advantage right now. He just needs to secure Lipany, and it'll be him moving into the semifinals.
Yeah, this is HuT's map choice though, so maybe, there's a plan here, like HuT has something like special that they're keeping in the back pocket. I guess we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I always like to call Lipany dry Arabian steroids, so we'll see what happens. It tends to accentuate the features of dry Arabia to the point that it can sometimes be comical to see how the map generates, and is one of those sort of chaotic but controlled maps where you
I'm
don't
just
really.
looking
Yeah.
at this center area. This is this massive stealth forest.
Yeah. It's very asymmetric because you also have the cliffs up in the north, which honestly are very defensible. You can absolutely have something up there and know that it is not going to be attacked pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
So it's
I'm
going to be
thinking about
interesting.
what's really up there that's valuable. I guess there's a boar and a relic, but outside of that, like all of the sacred sites are on the left hand side. Like
Yeah.
two of them are basically next to each other. You'd almost like hit those. That's like a basic. That's like trebuchet range away.
Yeah. If either of these players were playing something like Delhi, that would be a location to sort of set yourself up a little bit.
Oh yeah, if VortiX was Delhi, like that would be like perfect location for those two sacred sites. You could wall them like just across.
Yeah. Just a neat little tower in the middle of that stealth forest, and you would immediately have all the information that you need for defense.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it's going to be HuT that wants to, you know, I guess interact the most with sacred sites. They are Holy Romans, so they want to get those relics for that tier. Was it tier 3 landmark?
Yeah, that
And
triples the well, doubles the gold rate of relics.
so yeah, they're
Immediately, a
because
super quick council hall.
oh yeah, I mean that's basically what every English player I've seen play does is they go very very fast council hall. They put it like up front, ideally near like one of your kind of important resources, so like the gold in this case, and then you can just rally things into a nice defensible position. And we're seeing Arkin Chapel on the side of the Holy Roman Empire player, and this is a really nice position for this actually. That prelate that's
Yeah,
going to be put in it is going to buff. I think it could reach the berries as well, actually. So it's going to buff the wood line, the gold line, and the food line.
yeah, it is a pretty beautiful position for it, and it'll work for the entire game pretty much, bearing any major issues with the gold. It should work at least until the mid game for that gold line. On the other side, I'm pretty impressed, or like not impressed, but surprised about the gold that VortiX has, because it's very far forward. And I'm worried that he's going to have trouble with that because there is no other gold near his base.
Yeah, the closest other one is like all the way down in the south. It's very exposed. Yeah, HuT, I think, has the much nicer like beast resources in their base. I do think the overall map kind of favors VortiX though. Like the sacred sites are closer to him. The relics I think are a bit better positions. Like that center relic's closer to them, and fairly easy for them to reach. Like it's not that far away from like their base, like where their council hall is. So they're going to be able to
Yeah.
contest that very like heavily. And
I would have liked to seen I hope now after the scout for HuT finishes bringing back that sheep, that he positions it in that big stealth forest in the middle, because the scouts get full vision inside the stealth forest, normal units don't. So if you get one of your scouts to be like just far away in the stealth forest to like not be seen by normal units, but to see everything that goes on the stealth forest, you can get away with like full information about your opponent's movement pretty early on.
Yeah, and well, speaking of getting information about your opponent's movement, there are longbows right outside HuT's base, and he just sees them with that scout. So he sees them just as they're about to attack. And HuT does actually have an outpost up already, so there is like a little bit of defense over on that right hand side. Like you can't really circle around and hit from the back. I think the
Yeah.
longbows, with the sight from the scout, they're going to be able to do some damage here. Like I'm going to take a quick look at player vision. Yeah, they're able to, peck at these villagers. Thankfully, HuT has sheep for their food income right now, and the berries are like nice and defended as well. So
Yeah, and HuT just finished professional scouts too, so he's gonna be grabbing those deer carcasses and bringing them back to the town center where they're gonna be safe because they can just be on the upper corner of the building instead of anywhere else and be safe from those longbowmen.
yeah, like it's so nice. I watched the game yesterday, and I didn't appreciate how good professional scouts are for HRE until that game because you've got the Ark and Chapel with that prelate inside, so you're going to be inspiring everything, and you just put all of the food on the map right underneath it, so you're getting like boosted deer income with prelate buff.
Yeah,
Wow, VortiX even
and
building a barracks up at the front.
getting those early men at arms, I suppose. No,
No
just hardened spearmen.
spears. Yeah.
Kind of interesting. You have a safe goal right now because you have map control, and you know that the only major thing that your opponent is going to be fighting you with is going to be arrows from the outpost and the TC. Maybe a couple of men at arms would be the choice. Sure, they're going to be just vanguard men at arms, but they still have more armor than your normal archers or spearmen, I think. So they are able to tank a couple of shots from the towers and not suffer too much. Plus, once you get siege engineering, you can move them over to that as well and move into the spearmen if you feel like your opponent's going to be going into the stables, which, to be granted, HuT it does have a stable and will look to build some either horsemen or knights once he reaches the third age, but up until that point, you can maybe get away with something else. But VortiX does get 2 villagers there on those raids.
Yeah, actually gotten quite a few so far. I think it's like 4 or 5 at this point. Having a
Checking
lot of
the
success.
military, he lost 5 units so far, HuT. So 5 villagers dead, or 4 villagers dead, and maybe a scout or something like that at some point.
Yeah, they're getting a lot done with these early longwomen, and yeah, here comes the battering ram. And that tower is actually not supported by the town center at all, so... Oh, and every time these villagers pop out, longwomen are just like right there. Another villager goes down. And that's really scary when you're at this point in the game. Like, we're looking at 31 workers for VortiX versus 25 for HuT now. That's a really big difference. And yeah, here comes the battering ram. That's going to be knocking down that tower. And it's actually not just an economy thing. Like, if you pick off enough villagers before the battering ram goes in, that's, HuT's ability to kill the battering ram being negated.
Yeah. And certainly is trying to go up into the next stage. He will obviously be able to get there, but how much he will be able to do with it is to be decided. Using now the emergency repairs on a tower, not really the most valuable use of it. Thankfully, it refreshes pretty quickly, so you can use it again at some other point, but he's going to be in trouble, and now sending 4 scouts to try and destroy that ram, but there is a second one already on the way, so
Yeah.
things are gonna get pretty heavy right now.
Oh yeah, and is another villager gonna go down? Yes, one more goes down. Alright, so VortiX has done so much damage. And I think, oh, now they can get to that gold line.
Yeah, and just in time because the knights were starting to pop out, and now that there is no gold line for HuT, that is going to be much harder to do. And I
Yeah.
think HUD realized that a little bit earlier because he built a market, and I would suspect he's going to be using that market to get a little bit more gold from his professional scout gathering. So he's just going to be trying to get as much food as possible, turn some of that food into gold, and then go from there with more and more knights.
Yeah, but you know, you're facing hardened spearmen, and I mean, like it's funny. Like HRE is the one that has the bug spearmen right now. English spearmen work completely fine, so like the knights just aren't going to be able to fight. What are we looking at now? Like 10 spearmen roughly?
Yeah, it's way too many for HUD to take face on, and he's going to be going for the reinforcement, which is pretty good. It is going to give him a small window of time in which he knows that his opponent is not going to be reinforcing that little raid party. But on the other hand, that little raid party is made up of about 15 archers and 9 spearmen, so it's
Yeah.
not a small one.
Actually, something really important just happened. One of the houses went down, and now HuT can't build more units.
And one of the stables is on fire as well,
So, and yeah,
killing.
like he's gonna get those battering rams, but all the villagers have been idle during this. The spears, I think, are gonna clean up these knights. Yeah, there's only 2 knights left.
Yeah, the spears have absolutely paid for themselves at this point, and oh my goodness, that is hot. Really unfortunate to see 2 quick games to get knocked out of the tournament, but I think it speaks volumes to VortiX's ability to realize where the strengths are for his game plan and where the weaknesses are for his opponents. Where he just realized, hey, HuT, I know you cannot build more knights right now. I know that you have an economy that is pretty weak at the moment. I'm just gonna go in, and good luck trying to defend this.
Yeah, and like if we look at the villager count, it's just this point where the longbowmen arrive, they start harassing, and the villager count just doesn't really go up for HuT again at that point.
Yeah.
And that's not including things like idle time. A lot of these villagers just weren't doing anything. Or they had to get pulled to, you know, fight the ram, like at the end. And then, yeah, it just really went downhill. And look at the military count graph. Oh, wow.
Just never allowed him to build a good enough force to actually challenge.
Yeah, like, I'll
What
put like
what
a.
I'm Yeah, what I'm wondering is like what could HUD have done to have a different result? I want to think because it's the first thing that I saw, right? I want to think that maybe delaying the Raxid Cathedral would have been a good idea, but then you wouldn't have any access to gold, and you do need the gold to be able to make those knights work at that time. Um, so it's really hard for me to think, what could he have done differently there?
Yeah, I mean, possibly like men at arms and feudal. Like, the moment you scout those spears coming out, like, you just know the English player is going to have a decent number by the time knights come out, so.
The main problem is that you also need gold for that. So unless you would have to sacrifice the Ragnitz Cathedral in order to build a mass of men at arms, and then you're probably delaying yourself further because if you don't end up protecting your gold, you are now on the same age, so you don't have the age advantage, and you have men at arms which are not as strong as knights, even though you're fighting against spearmen. So he was in a pretty difficult tactical position that was really hard to get out of.
Yeah. The other thing that comes to mind would be like getting mangonels up, or at least trying to. But the wood line was the place that was getting hit and harassed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just like incredibly difficult to, you know, like reach that like amount of wood because that's like 300 for a siege workshop, I think, and then
I
400
think
for a
so, yeah.
mangonel. So, yeah, you need 700 wood to be able to fight against a push like that. if you choose to go the siege route. Amagano would
It
have been
is,
devastating to that army though, but
yeah. Well, it is an unfortunate result, and it also means that HuT is the first of the quarterfinalists to be eliminated. All the other games are the Mista versus the Magic. They're still on game one. The Viper versus Lucifrom. The Viper has the advantage right now, one map up. And the Muslim versus Marine Lord. Marine Lord has taken map one. So